Good evening, YouTubers. Reloading Bench back to you once again, and this is reloading related content. Woohoo! I think the first reloading content of 2024, and we're about a week into 2024. So I had received a box from Amazon. Still shaking my cough. Received a box from Amazon, and it was lathe related, and I thought, I'm not going to unbox on video and blah, blah, blah. And then I realized they packaged some other stuff in with my order. And so you missed the unboxing, but that's what was in the box. And I have some 223 on the bench. I was out shooting an old Ruger #1 in 223. And I thought perfect timing to do this video because I didn't even know Lee made this particular die. And obviously they've changed their cases. Nice shiny red injection molding as opposed to the plastic clear translucent shades of reddish, clear, and some yellow. Nice case. But this is the Lee Ram Swage. And again, I didn't even know Lee made this. So I guess as I age in my reloading journey, I'm not keeping up with the newness. And this is a swaging die. And I will pull out here in a minute because the focus is this die. But I will show you my history of swaging because it's been very interesting. It started with Lee, then it moved to CH4D, and then it moved to RCBS in terms of a bench mount, and let's see what else. I think I've had a couple of RCBS solutions, and I'll show you what I finally settled on before I discovered this die. And I had to scrounge around, and I found a lock and load bushing, so I will put this on the iron press. Make it nice and easy. So again, I didn't even know Lee made this, and it looks like it comes with the die, and obviously two different a small and a large swaging. And I'm not even sure how that works. Is there a spring in there? So obviously the die, interesting, looks like a little divot on the die. So obviously the die goes in to the casing, and it's spring loaded, and probably doesn't help the fact that I've got primer in there. These have not been resized, so I need to grab. Do I have 223? I think this is a 223 that I cut down. I want to say this was used for something else. So it probably helps if I read the directions to see what I'm doing. Cap. Cap, spring, swage guide. So I'm going to say that this is the cap. That's the swage guide. I'm pushing down on the spring. There's the rod, and obviously in reverse order. So this is the cap. Springs inside. This goes into your shell holder, and I'm going to guess that through some action it's doing some wonderfulness. All right, so place a deep prime case on the ram swage holder and rise it to the top of the stroke. Screw the guided swage push die in until it reaches a firm stop. Okay. Raise the lever and screw the guide swage in an additional quarter turn. So your traditional Lee mounting method. Attention. Obviously, don't do Bourdain. Only do boxer. All cases must be decapped before swaging. Most foreign military brass is Bourdain primed and cannot be deprimed with this product. Look inside the case. It must have a one central flash hole. All right. B. Remove case and verify you have enough swage by using a primer as a gauge. Oh, that's interesting. If the primer will not start, increase the swage by turning in the guided swage push die a small amount, quarter turn, and repeat until the case accepts the primer. Tighten the spline, drop the lever. Okay, so pretty straightforward. You know, screw it in until it deprimes. The problem I have is all of my, and this looks like a good military crimp. I don't know that any of these, because these are mine that have already been, yeah, I don't know if any of them have a crimp enough. So before we get started putting this in the iron press and testing it out, I will cover some of the other. That's interesting. Is one taller than the other? No, they're both the same size, other than just being one primer, small primer, large primer. But as you can see, they seat differently in the case. What I will do is showcase some of the wonderfulness I've done over the years with swaging, because swaging is probably the biggest pain in the behind aspect of well, I'm just making a mess of this, of bottleneck brass. The biggest pain in the butt of bottleneck brass. All right, so let's go over some of the stuff that I've used in the past. I'll be right back. All right, I guess I'm a glutton for punishment when it comes to a variety of swaging. So years ago, as I was starting out on my Lee Classic turret, there's the RCBS Primer Pocket Swage Combo. And I think they call it a junior now. And this is like 10 plus years, actually more than 10 years, 2010, 14 years ago. And a guy had a copper pipe and a washer that he glued to the top. And that allowed him, and he cut a little notch out of it, that allowed him to use the RCBS Pocket Swage Combo on the Lee Classic turret. Because the problem is, when you mount this to the shell holder on the Lee Classic turret, and the die that, you know, essentially very similar to, conceptually, if I don't hit everything, conceptually the same thing as this. So the die is in your press, and you would seat the shell holder would be in the ram, and obviously you would raise it so it'd be sticking up like this. You would then put your piece of brass, and this brass actually needs to be crimped. This crimp piece of brass needs to be swaged. So you would put that in there, and then you would jam it into the, you would raise it into the Lee, which is essentially, again, same concept, and then it would bottom out and swage it. That worked a little bit, and the problem is you just saw me trying to pull that out, and that's where this came in, because this would sit on top of everything, and as the ram came down, it would use the force of this to pop the brass off. So you knew you got your crimp, you knew you got your swage because it would pop off. Again, this piece needs to be swaged a bit. So the copper pipe with the washer worked a little bit, and then the glue would come off and whatnot. So this was the first project that I asked SocalSW to make when I came across his site. So he made me my knurly powder covers for my both my Hornady and my Dillon. And so this was the first thing he made. I had bought the Mr. Bully adapter and liked the work he did, so I commissioned him to do this, and he actually still sells this on his site today. So this is a great adapter for being able to use the RCBS Pocket Swager on a Lee Classic turret. Then I came across CH4D, and again, similar concept, but instead of the swaging rod being inside the die, it's actually part of the shell holder. So you have a shell, your normal Lee shell holder goes on top, and then this swages into it. The problem is with the way the shell holder operates, the Lee shell holder operates, this is a crappy design. In all honesty, number 4. So what happens is when you have your first of all, your brass is not locked in, and when you push the ram up, it really doesn't get a full deep / uniform, maybe deep's not the right word, uniform swage, because everything's at an angle, because you're pushing up, and it's really ineffective for me. So I abandoned this one. The Lee worked great, or let me rephrase that, the RCBS Swage Combo worked great on my Lee Classic turret with the enhancements, and I thought I was, golden, but, as every reloader, you like to try something different, something new comes along, which is exactly why I'm trying the Lee. It's something new that has come along, and let's see if it works any better. So this was my go-to. This was too frustrating. I could see the brass tilting. I never felt like I got a firm swage the way I did with the RCBS combo. Then I picked up, and I did a video on this many years ago as well, I picked up the RCBS Swager, bench-mounted Swager. And this is absolutely my favorite because it mounts to my T-track. It's very quick and easy. When you get your rhythm down, you're in business. In fact, I think I'd like to do it this way because I don't even use this. When it's locked down, I just pop this down. There's a, you can actually hear it. Hopefully. I mean, it has stops, and obviously you can go below the stop, but it has a stop that once you get your rhythm going, again, I don't really use this. I would just push the brass down, and then I would swage it. And this has a great tactile feel. This is robust as hell. It's over-engineered, overbuilt, and it rocks. And it allows me, as compared to these others, to really rock and roll. The problem with the Lee, and we won't talk about the CH4D anymore because that's just it's just too loosey-goosey with the shell holder. But the problem with the Lee RCBS combo pocket swager combo deal was when if swaging is the last thing you do, you're going to have a very tight fit in the throat, because when you resize the die back to factory spec, it's a very tight fit, and I've had pieces get stuck because, again, depending on how you operate, ideally your you know, swaging isn't the last thing you do, and unfortunately for me, it's one of the last, or the last, just because of whatever. But ideally, once you and again, because I don't use a universal decapper for doing my bottleneck brass, I use a resizing die to decap. So it resizes the neck, and it's a tight fit, as opposed to the and I'll see if I can demonstrate that. RCBS. So when you go to put this in, that's a really tight fit, and it shouldn't be that tight, because when you have a shot casing, look, see how easy that goes in there? So ideally, you know, you would, for this to work as smoothly as this, you would have to use a universal decap, which again adds another step in the brass prep process for bottleneck. Whereas I've already resized and decapped this, and it won't, it will not go on smoothly. I'll get it to go on, but that's going to cause some challenges. So that was a bit of a downer, because you don't want to introduce additional steps into your brass prep, because bottleneck brass prep has enough steps. So this eliminated that, because it doesn't matter if it's sized or not, it slides on the bar. So I wasn't stressing. So again, this right now is my go-to and my absolute favorite, especially when it's mounted in my T-slot. All right, so these two, this sucks. This works, but has challenges, and will only work really well if you do a universal decap and resize later. So I'm very curious, and I guess we'll find out here right now, since this has been resized, how easy the okay, that answers that question. So it's been resized, and where that wouldn't go in the combo won't go in, but will go in the Lee. So that's encouraging. Again, for the people who bash Lee, I don't get it. Lee comes up with some pretty nifty designs. And then one of the things I also do is to try and reduce, again, handling of brass, is my go, no go. And this is tight, so it needs to be swaged. So this is going to be our model for what we do with the Lee swager, pocket swager, the Lee ram swage. Sorry, I'm mixing terms up. So again, for bench mount, this is my go-to. For press mount, I'm not a fan of the CH4D. And in order to get the RCBS Pocket Swage Combo to work, I needed SocalSW to machine me a piece of aluminum that works great. And again, that's probably the most consistent. But again, with the Lee, I don't like the fact that the swaging bar is so wide. Now that I have a lathe, maybe I could turn that down a little bit and it wouldn't be such an issue. Methinks that's a good idea. So that's probably in the future, not too far away, once I get the lathe working again. All right, let's set this up on the iron press, and we'll give it a try and see how it feels. Back in a few. All right, we've run into our first problem using the iron press. So if you take a normal shell holder, and I've disabled the priming system because we don't have a pass-through hole on this as we do with this. So you take a normal shell holder, and then you apply the iron press, whatever you will call this thing, to hold the shell in place. You're good. Unfortunately, the diameter of this is less than the diameter of the shell holder. Come on, Lee. So this won't lock into place, and it jitters all over the place. So my first thought is to try and get an O-ring, because it looks like it's not that big a deal. Maybe an O-ring around the base of this thing. So I'll be back in a few minutes if I can find an O-ring. All right, 20 years ago when we used to paintball, we had a gazillion O-rings. We had to make sure that we had O-rings for everything, because markers would pop O-rings the day we're on the field and it ruins the day. All right, so let me move you over here. I'm going to say the iron press is not a no-go, but it's not going to work as well as, say, a Lee press with the turret, because this is a fucking quirky design. I swear to God, it's fucking quirky. Worst thing about the iron press is this fucking design, because it's just fucking quirky. So I think we'll get it working. If I can get this O-ring back on. Yeah, motherfucker. We'll try that. Just because. Alright, so that's, you know, working, but it's janky. So it's not an ideal solution. Let me get the instructions. I think it said you have to start with place a D prime case on the ram swage. You know what? Let me pull out a piece of brass from the bench that does not need swaging, so that we can do this adjustment more easily. All right, here's a piece. Doesn't need swaging. All right. So here we go. Place a D prime case on the ram swage holder and raise to the top of the stroke. All right. So we have now raised to the top of the stroke. Screw the guided swage, push down until it reaches a firm stop. All right, so naturally the tripod is in the way, so I'm sure I'll hit it. Let's put this bushing in. Turn it a little bit. And we're going to, so ram is all the way down, and we're going to screw this in. Can you see that? Yes, you can. We're going to screw this in, until it reaches a firm stop. All right, I'm going to say that's a pretty firm stop. Raise the lever and screw the guided swage in an additional quarter turn. There's my quarter turn. Let me try and lock that in a little bit. Remove case and verify if you have a swage by using a primer as a gauge. I'll use my go, no go gauge as my gauge. And I think finger tight should be fine for what we're doing here. All right, so now we're going to, very positive feel. And naturally it has to go right in the middle of the tripod. All right, so now let's give it a real try. You can see my O-ring is popping a little bit, but it's still steady. All right, so here's my bad piece of brass that doesn't want to play nice. So we'll put that on there. Yeah, I'm liking this a lot more than the RCBS Combo. And obviously, well, I should shut up and see if it actually worked. Not really. So, we will turn again. But I'm liking the whole springy thingy thing. Yeah, I don't know that that's doing anything either. Keep turning. I mean, you can feel the overcam. I don't know that we're making any progress. So I think it's trial and error. Ooh, that felt pretty deep, which is kind of what the instructions say. Repeat until the case accepts a primer. Well, I'll repeat until the case accepts my gauge. Oh, there we go. So we now have a legit. All right. So I'm going to say that felt great in the sense that you don't have to fight the rod the way you do with the RCBS combo, because the rod is just too thick. And we have yet another winner from Lee, with the only drawback being, and not Lee's fault, because Lee's not going to make something that fits a Hornady press. The bummer is this effing fudge. This thing is such a piece of shit. This thing, this method. Somebody's got to come up with something. Somebody needs to come up with something, because that thing sucks. That thing sucks. Yeah, the only thing I can think of is, wow, doing any machining on the lathe for that to do an insert. Holy shit, that would be, yeah, that is so tiny, so tiny. That might be a project. Never say never. That might be a brass project. I have the brass. Make the thinnest brass insert that is that tall, and yeah, that might work. All right, but from a swaging perspective, I'm liking this as a swager. That swaging felt great. It was very positive, tactile, very clean design, and on a Lee press or a not iron press, standard press that takes normal shell plates, shell holders rather, as opposed to this funky funk design, should work fine. But yeah, I'm liking the Lee. Wow. You guys, you Lee bashers, I don't get you. Lee makes some good stuff, and this is another great example of a cool die that does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it makes it you know, as easy and quick as the RCBS bench swager. So I'm going to call this a win from Lee. Good stuff. Later.